Well, hi there, and welcome to ChessBase Workshop. My name is Steve Lopez. Thanks for clicking the link and joining us for this presentation today. I'm going to introduce you to your new best friend. If you're a chess writer, a chess editor, if you just like to annotate your own games, if you do any annotation work in ChessBase at all, and by the way, if you're not, you should be. One of the best ways to learn more about chess is to annotate your own games. Always go over your own games, whether it's a tournament game, casual game, whatever it is. Go over it later. Make some notes. Write about what you were thinking about in a particular point in the game. And what's really cool about that is you can go back way later, days, weeks, months, sometimes years later, and you get an insight into your own thoughts during the game. And if you've improved as a player, sometimes you'll see where you were thinking the wrong thing during the game. Why was I thinking that? And after you get finished feeling like a horse's patoot for having thought of that all those years ago, when you're looking at a note that's just dead wrong, then you kind of pat yourself on the back because you realize you've improved as a chess player. You've gotten better. So you should annotate your own games. Excuse me, but if you're someone like me, I annotate a lot of games for publication on the web, occasionally for print. Show you my best friend, and which will soon be yours. It's called the annotation palette in older versions of ChessBase. In ChessBase 11, they call it the symbol palette. It's the same thing. What it is, it's a little floating window that gives you all the symbols you need to annotate games. First, go to the Insert tab. This is when you have a game window open. Go to the Insert menu, not tab. Go to the Insert menu, and you see this little button way down here at the bottom. That actually means there's more stuff than what's showing in the ribbon. Anytime you look at a ribbon, a little box in a ribbon, and down in the lower right corner you see a little box with an arrow, that means there's more stuff. And as you can see here, it says Symbol Palette. Click on it, and there we go. Excuse me. There's your Symbol Palette. What that gives you is quick access to a whole bunch of symbols, the ability to start, promote, delete variations, and also you can add text before and after moves in a game. So, for example, we have this game that I'm just playing around with here, in which the first move is knight f3, and I can click, for example, text after move. Now, there's another way to get here, by the way. If you want to put text after a move and you don't want the symbol palette up, you can right click, and everything that's in this symbol palette, by the way, well, pretty much everything, will be found in a right click menu. For example, here you've got different annotations, different symbols. You can also add text before and after move, also add a variation. So you can do it that way as well, but here it's all in one place. It's sort of your one stop for all these different things. So if I want to put a note to knight f3, I can make text after move a non-committal move which can transpose into a variety of openings. This isn't too bad considering I'm not wearing my glasses. That'll work. We'll put that in there. We play through a few more moves. I did look at this earlier before I started this video, and I noticed that bishop d3 was what was played, but the book move is actually h3. So what this means is that bishop d3 wasn't in the book, makes it a novelty. We can go to this little button right here. It has N for novelty, and just click on it, bang. Now we have an N right here in the notation. Notice too that you got little, little mouse overs. When you go over a particular button, it will show you what that little notation form means. The up arrow is initiative, with attack, development advantage, etc. Counterplay? Yes. Better is. Threat, the idea of. There you go. You have all these different buttons you can use to denote, just like you see in a chess book, different ideas in a game, and do it symbolically. It's shortcut. It's shorthand is what it is. You don't have to type everything out if there's a symbol for it. Notice too, by the way, that if you do put a symbol in, like novelty, and you decide you don't want it later, click none. It takes it away. Up here it's gone, but I want it there, so we'll put N. Move this down a little bit. We'll play through a little more of the game. Let me click up here. There we go. Now we have something interesting here. We have a hole on e5, and white opts to play bishop e5. And I kind of question that, because that knight on d7 can just cop off that bishop. Of course, then the knight will take knight. It's hard to say which is better, but my personal preference here would be this. And what I'll do is, instead of this move, bishop e5, we'll come down here and go start variation. It takes back the move, as you just saw up here. The knight went back, and this went back a move. Now I can make a different move. And we have a variation started. Black would likely reply with this. And white would come here. And I like that a little bit better. Now, we could argue about it, but personally, I'm annotating the game. So I think it's better. So I can go back to the first move of this variation, knight e5, and use the note for better is. And there we go. Notice, too, that if I wanted to take this game and save it into a database, let's say I wanted to use this as a starting point for a whole separate game I might put in that's a theoretical game. Let's extend this variation out for whatever reason, any reason I'd want to do this. I can make this variation the main line. And the way you do that is click on the first move of the variation, come down here to variation, and select promote. And look what it just did. It made the variation that I just input the main line and demoted the main line to a variation line within the game. If you decide you don't like that, you can always switch it back just by promoting the old main line back into place. Very simple. You can resort variations very quickly this way. The other thing I didn't mention back at the beginning of this video, I talked about writing, editing, annotating your own games. Another thing this is really handy for, you know what? I kept looking at that, and I think that's wrong. I think that's better. There we go. Anyway, what this is also good for is correspondence players. If you play correspondence chess, you know that you analyze the dickens out of a game. I mean, you're always making moves. No, I don't like that. Let me go back to the position, and you'll make a bunch of other moves, and you wind up with a whole tree of variations. And what I typically did when I was a correspondence player was I took whatever I thought my opponent's response would be and made that the next mainline move. So, for example, if I had played knight e5, and I looked at, oh, let's say he decides to do that instead, and I could play through a bunch of different stuff here. And let's say that after looking at playing knight e5, I figured that maybe knight e5 takes e5 was the better variation. That's probably what my opponent was going to play. I would promote that line. And then maybe I look at it a little more and say, well, maybe knight takes d2, followed by queen takes d2 might be a little better. I'll promote that. You could just keep shuffling variations up and down in the game score to your heart's content, and just keep reordering variations using the promote button. If you decide you don't like a variation at all, like knight takes d2, queen takes d2, possible, but well, then it would be this followed by this. I don't know. I think that doesn't look too good. I think, why would black give up a good outpost right here? No, that's probably not going to happen. Let's just forget the whole thing. We just click delete, and that variation's gone. It's that simple. It's a really, really, really quick, easy way just to add notes, resort variations, add text. You can add text before a move or after a move. It's just quick. And I've used this annotation palette extensively down through the years. Like I say, I've written a ton of stuff. I've edited a bunch of electronic books, done all kinds of things, and I've used that symbol palette a great deal, and especially when I was a correspondence player. That was a lifesaver. So that's what the annotation palette does. Once again, if you want to know how to get there, the annotation palette or symbol palette, all you have to do is go to the Insert menu, go to the Annotations box, click on that little arrow down here in the lower corner, and it pops up, and you can just use it for whatever you want to use it for. I'll tell you what we'll do here. Let's start a variation here. This, 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 and then we'll slap a questionable move there, because I don't think that's very good. And if I decide to keep all this stuff, then what I have to do is, don't forget this: if you add notes to a game, if you add notes, if you add variations, any changes you make to a game, make sure you come up here to the application menu, go to save, and then replace. We've been over this a couple times before, but once again, if you save it here, it will save a new version of this game to the database. You'll wind up with 2 copies of the game in the database, one with the notes and one without. The original one without, the new one you just did with. If you only want 1 copy of it in the database, you just want this game in there once, just replace the old game that didn't have any notes with the new version. Click replace. Of course, all this information doesn't need to be changed. We click OK, and there we are. I'm going to sit here and continue to annotate this game because it's fun, and I'm kind of interested in seeing what happens. So I'm going to do that. Meanwhile, go fire up ChessBase and play around with the symbol palette and see the things you can do with it. And we'll get back together again here next week for another ChessBase workshop. Until then, please have fun.